a United States intelligence report for 2025 very clearly once again exposes Pakistan and the army's control. The only focus remains India. How Pakistan, in fact, the army uses its the existential, in fact, crisis threat against India as the main reason for increasing their military spending. Cross-border skirmishes are the top priority of the Pakistani military. Pakistan also regards India as an existential threat, and the report also says it will continue to pursue its military modernization effort, keeping in mind, to deter India. In fact, what we also know is that this report suggested that the Pakistani establishment is keen on their continuous development of nuclear weapons, a lot of which they are being helped by China.
We had a very warm, cordial, meaningful discussion with the Shura Council, led by its Deputy Speaker. Qatar has already expressed its anguish at the incidents that happened on 22nd April, wherein 26 lives were lost. And they had also expressed that they are against all forms of terrorism.
हमें बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है कि ये सारे दुनिया में भारत जो मांग कर रहा है कि एक जीरो टॉलरेंस अगेंस्ट टेररिज्म होना चाहिए, वो हर जगह पूरी दुनिया टेररिज्म और आतंकवाद के खिलाफ साथ खड़ी हुई है.
Voices of delegates of India's anti-terror diplomacy. It's been nearly 20 days since India launched the decisive Operation Sindoor. A major offensive against Pakistan-based terror groups. While the military action may have paused, India's global anti-terror push continues, gathering strong momentum. The seventh and final all-party delegation, led by BJP MP Ravi Shankar Prasad, has now departed for the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy and Denmark to rally global support. And as India garners global support against state-sponsored terrorism, the neighbor stands increasingly isolated. A new US intelligence report lays bare Pakistan's twisted mindset. The report states that Pakistan views India as an existential threat. Pakistan's military puts continued cross-border skirmishes with neighbors as a top priority and is modernizing its nuclear arsenal with support from China to counter India's military capabilities. And it's not just India that's bearing the brunt of terrorism. The report also highlights that in 2024 alone, over 2,500 people were killed within Pakistan by terror groups operating from its own soil, and the nation is struggling to contain attacks by Tehreek-e-Taliban and Baloch militants. As India builds global consensus on zero tolerance to terror, Pakistan's doublespeak stands exposed. With the world finally taking notice, can Islamabad still deny the writing on the wall? Malavika Murli's report for NDTV.
The contents of this report are not surprising to many, ladies and gentlemen, something which has been exposed, has been spoken about for many, many decades. I'm being joined at this moment by Dr. Tara Kharsa, former Director, National Security Council Secretariat, in fact, and we are also being joined by Ravinder Sachdev, Foreign Affairs expert. Dr. Soumya Avasthi, fellow ORF and counter-terror expert, is also with us at this moment. We are also being joined by Daniel Block, Senior Editor, Foreign Affairs and a contributing editor at the Washington Monthly. Thank you so much and welcome to all my guests. Let me first, for the benefit of our viewers, go across at this moment to Daniel. Daniel, this is an yearly report and possibly, like I said, not a surprising findings as far as this report is concerned when it comes to Pakistan and its designs as far as India goes. Can you also elaborate for our viewers what's the view as far as this report is concerned with Pakistan in taking in consideration the latest skirmishes between both the countries?
I think the United States is concerned about these two skirmishes, or the series of skirmishes rather, in large part because the two countries have nuclear weapons. So the United States is concerned, obviously, about terrorism as it relates to Pakistan. It has been for decades. It continues to be. And it's certainly going to try and put pressure, as it's done before, on Pakistan to contain terrorism better within its borders and to roll back terrorists outside its borders as well. But it wants to maintain good ties with Pakistan in large part because it wants to be able to de-escalate conflicts that arise between India and Pakistan. So as you were saying, I don't think the United States views this as surprising. I think it's pretty standard. It's what we've seen in the past. But it's going to want to maintain good ties with both states. That way, like I said, it can act as a mediator in the event a conflict rises up again.
But Dr. Katha, this report comes at a time when India is already making a very strong case globally as far as terror emanating from Pakistan is concerned, as the main reason for what happened in the last a few days between India and Pakistan. This report only bolsters the claim. It will very clearly put a divide, or at least a line for the Western world as well. Where do they stand as far as terror emanating on Pakistan is concerned?
See, the US intel has always been sensitive on terrorism in Pakistan, regardless of what the presidents and the White House says. This is a continuing concern. And that is what I have seen in my years of service. This is a Defense Intelligence Agency report, as different from the DNI report, which is all source. March 25, the DNI report specifically mentioned Lashkar-e-Taiba. So there is a very clear awareness of what's going on here. But what I really, really like in this report is the reference where they say Pakistan is an ancillary security problem for India. Meaning it is basically a Chinese front. That is one. And number two, the fact that its nuclear weapons assistance comes from China. So this has an implication, very, very strong implications for us. And in terms of also the fact that just in March, we had that interception of a shipment which was carrying things to Pakistan from China. This is US-India intel cooperation. So what I'm trying to say, it's both countries see it in their benefit, in their interest to continue to cooperate, because you don't know what is going to come out of Pakistan. It's a very, very dangerous state, and Intel is very aware of this fact.
So it's like you said, and we saw it recently in the warlike situation that both the countries almost came to, where the Chinese hardware was being, of course, used by Pakistan in a large quantity. But the fact remains that nuclear proliferation coming in, or at least assistance coming in from China, gives it a very different dimension. And Mr. Sachdev, if I may bring you in at this moment, so it is concerning for India, but it should be a global concern, isn't it, sir, with the games that China and Pakistan together are playing?
Thank you so much. A pleasure to be with you. Yes, certainly it should be a global concern, but what? The reality is that it is not the number one priority, neither for the US. Sure, the US is, handling, or let's say juggling multiple priorities across the world. There's Indonesia happening, Sudan happening, Myanmar happening, Afghanistan. So they are multitasking and handling. So, and as I think Dr. Katha said very well, and our previous colleague, it's the annual report. Yeah, sure. The fact is coming right now when India is in the midst of this outreach to kind of convey and persuade the world more so about Pakistan's intentions. Sure, it comes at a timely moment in that sense. But other than that, yes, also, as again, I think Dr. Katha said, that India and the US have been collaborating on intelligence, and there are layers, you see. One is coordination on intelligence sharing, maybe on the administration and government to government levels. The next level is the political leadership and what priorities they see. In this report, what I find concerning is that the report is saying that Pakistan is accelerating its efforts to modernize its nuclear arsenal in order to, let's say, in order to kind of confront India in an asymmetrical manner. So that's, that's one new, information, so to say, but this information is already known.
Yes.
So the point is that this information is already known. The matter is that how the issues are being prioritized by leaders of various countries, be it the US, be it Europe, and where do they see terrorism and Islamic terrorism?
Yes.
Terrorism for the US has shifted, by the way. Sure, Islamic terror remains a concern globally. But in the US, still the Biden administration, their number one aspect of terror was white racism.
Right.
Biden, in his inauguration address in 2021,
Yes.
said that the number one danger for us is that.
Yes.
Even for Trump right now, Islamic terror is there, but for them, they see a bigger danger from the socialist, communist, liberals.
Right.
So, it's a matter of priorities.
It's a matter of priorities, of course. But Dr. Soumya Awasthi, at this moment, it becomes very, very clear that at least for us, and this was being said even at the time of the tensions between India and Pakistan, the fight will have to be India's fight. You can't look globally for any support in that aspect, because you are now, with the current situation, China and Pakistan playing tag along in a two-front war or a multi-prong, scenario with a country like Pakistan where military dictates everything. Even after a defeat, the chief of the army becomes a field marshal. It very clearly tells you, for the existence of the Pakistani army, a big bad bully India, that's the picture that they want to paint.
Yeah. Thank you, Ankit. So yes, this report at this time is actually underscoring several important points favoring India and bolstering its efforts towards zero tolerance for terrorism. And it's in fact validating the India's threat perception vis-a-vis Pakistan, because now we read about how China is collusively working with Pakistan on WMD supplies. So yes, it is India's battle alone. And but in all this, I think globally, if you see, the world is standing behind India, including the Gulf countries. Of course, India-US relation needs to be highlighted here. But when it comes to how are we going to deal with it, I think there should be basically short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals that we can look at, especially when it comes to the FATF, because next month we are going to go, there is a FATF summit, where India has a right chance to talk about it and use this report and at the UN and multilateral forums to renew its pressure on Pakistan. And in fact, it can also engage with the US and EU partners to help, to call for the end user verification of Chinese origin dual use exports to Pakistan. So there are ways in which we can deal with them. And if we talk about, how we can do it in midterms, I think it will be using of diplomatic blocks around Indo-Pacific to isolate China-Pakistan corridor, because they are using it for military supply.
Yes.
And so there are many ways in which India is planning to go ahead with regard to Pakistan. Pakistan is known to have almost 25 terror organizations based out of Pakistan. So it's no more a hidden fact. I think this report just validates, highlights, and
absolutely
talks about
just once again underscores and underlines what has been known to the world, not now, but for many, many decades. In fact,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
let me bring you in at this moment once again, because for the United States and the kind of relationship that India and United States have seen, the bolstering of the relationship between both the countries, of course, the importance for the United States would be that India somehow, looks or helps the United States to counter the growing Chinese influence. That would be their priority. In this report, when it underlines that China is helping even in the nuclear program, weapon program of Pakistan, what can be expected from Washington, D.C.?
Well, I think one thing that's important to know about the way Washington views this conflict is it is different from the way that India views this conflict in some important ways. One, I think that's critical to underscore is the view in Washington is not that this was kind of an unmitigated Indian triumph. It didn't view this as a clear Indian victory. It viewed the outcome of this as just kind of scary all around. Two nuclear armed states trading blows, striking each other's territory. And while they certainly are closer with India than they are with Pakistan, and they are worried about Chinese influence in Pakistan, and they're very aware, as the previous guests were saying, it's not surprising to the United States that China is helping Pakistan in various ways. And they're worried about that, and they're concerned. They do want to maintain some type of ties with Pakistan so that they don't necessarily feel like things will get completely out of control if the two countries are striking each other. That said, at the same time, they are probably going to want to work with India more and more as the years go on in order to deal with the threat from China. And I would imagine at times that's going to, and it probably has already happened, talking about the way that China is operating within Pakistan, the way that China is helping Pakistan with its various endeavors.
Both economically and militarily as well. China is the lifeline as far as Pakistan is concerned. But Dr. Karta, like Daniel was also speaking, and this is something that once again has come in the conversation post the tensions between India and Pakistan. The dehyphenation of India and Pakistan, is it once again after many years of trying to completely separate ourselves in the way we are spoken about between Pakistan, after this skirmish and this whole scare of two nuclear powers going at each other, we are back to square one in that sense? And possibly this report also bolster our claim that the world cannot look at India and Pakistan, or at least speak about both the countries in the same sentence with the same breath.
I think that is an unfortunate fallout, there's no doubt. But I think the thrust of our, at least saying, the thrust of our talking to other countries should not be limited to Sindoor or what had happened during that time. You know certain facts. The fact that in March, a bunch of Pakistanis were arrested in Spain. I mean, this is a 3-year operation against Pakistan in Spain, who were doing this radicalization. They were indulging in a whole bunch of activities in Spain. Number 2, arrest of a person for trying to, again, on the Charlie Hebdo case, another attempt against them. In another case, Indonesia, caught 4 Pakistanis. This is all over. If you want to dehyphenate India and Pakistan, you have to stress the actual truth, which is that here is a terrorist state and here is a democratic state. That is where the dehyphenation will occur, and we need to pursue that. And to be very honest, I think we took our eye off that ball. Number 2 is that the fact that, our cooperation with the US goes on. Even as Sindoor was going on, there was a tabletop exercise of the Quad in Hawaii. There was a group talking about aircraft carrier cooperation in Delhi. So all these activities go on side by side. So it's much larger. India-US cooperation, that I've lost count of the number of working groups there are. So let's accept that. And also, however, go on with this effort to show the kind of activities Pakistanis are engaging in. The report, the DIA report, talks of the threat from terrorists taking up the Gaza issue, yes. AQI taking up that. I can pretty sure that the next threat will come from a Pakistani trying to take revenge for Gaza, because it's huge. It's huge.
And absolutely, and like I was saying earlier, the whole existence, and that is the only reason why Pakistani army has been able to draw, a substantial amount of the resources in Pakistan by always keeping India as the big bad wolf, in front of the people of Pakistan. Their existence depends on this whole, painting the picture. But Mr. Sachdev, let me bring you in at this moment, sir. This has also been a time where we have seen that, a lot of countries have supported India. I mean, largely, if you compare, Pakistan has 3-4 countries which have supported them, at least in this episode, while India has got a worldwide support. How else can India be more effective in ensuring that, Pakistan is seen for the country that it is?
Thank you. I think Pakistan is already known and seen to be the country that it is. The issue is the priority. Many nations do not see it as a priority for them. They have other priorities. Okay, for us, definitely is the number one priority. And I think in a bigger picture, we are facing another question which we need to address squarely. The question being asked in world capitals is, okay, fine, this is terrorism, you're doing, tit for tat plus, etc. What is your end goal? India, what do you want? What do you envision? Therein, I think we are clearly saying that our end goal, that's my perspective, is that Pakistan must learn to live and let live. Shashi Tharoor and the parliamentarians are saying this essentially. World wants to know, what is your end goal? What is your end game? Do you want to conquer and capture Pakistan? Do you want to, rule Pakistan or something? Because these are fundamental questions which are out there. If the conflict or the tensions are such, so big and the gaps are so big, what do you want? Pakistan claims, as you're saying, a crisis of existential crisis, right? So we have to clarify one, and we have to, circle it with Prime Minister's message.
Yes.
There should not be gap. The PM says this is not the era of war. If this is not the era of war, we have to tell the world, what is this the era of? This is the era of the world and Pakistan to learn to live and let live. Else, otherwise, our doctrine of tit for tat and tit for tat plus and heavier will continue.
So absolutely, and that's the vicious cycle that people fear that both these countries are caught in. And Dr. Awasthi, let me bring you in on this because, even after Operation Sindoor, now, as Daniel was also saying, at least outside it looks like, both the countries, this was a draw match, largely. If that is the case, and the way Pakistan, at least for their domestic audience, have gone on, pitching is as a victory for the Pakistani army to try and safeguard them. At least that's how the pitch within Pakistan has been. It won't be a surprise that in a year or so we are back to square one.
One thing that we need to keep in mind when we talk about Pakistan is that they are never going to change. It's only the political hardening that we need from not just India, but globally as well, because we know that time and again, back from 65 onwards probably, or maybe post-partition, we have been seeing that how they have been carrying this baggage with them about cutting India into 1,000 cuts, bleeding India into 1,000 cuts. And then, so this apprehension of all of us is fair enough to say that comes from the experience of the past, that they do not stop. We are suspecting that they will come back. It's just a matter of time that when it is going to happen. But it certainly is a fear in all of us that it is going to happen. So it is not just about dealing with them militarily, but I think it's high time using this Operation Sindoor's post-operation momentum that we have created to ensure that globally we get a support, and that we are getting anyways. Especially I was appreciative of how OIC stood with us.
Absolutely.
And they refused to sign on the Kashmir negotiations when Pakistan went to the OIC for putting Kashmir in the negotiations, and OIC refused it. We do have
I'll have to leave it there because I'm totally out of time. Daniel, let me give you the last word on this because like the Indian Prime Minister has very clearly said, trade and terror can't go hand in hand. But for the United States President, trade seems to be overruling everything. That was basically his pitch, even with the negotiations of ceasefire, that as per the US President, his administration initiated. Is there a change in stance, as far as the Islamic radical terrorism that emanates from Pakistan and the priorities of the government of the United States?
I think, like I was saying before, you're going to see a situation, or you probably should, where the US government is going to want to get back involved in terms of mediating between the two states in a way that it was hoping not to. And, right up until the conflict began to escalate in serious ways, President Trump was saying they'll figure it out. It's between the two of them. But I think there's a new realization now that they can't do that. They're going to have to stay involved in some way, mediating between the two. And, that's going to involve, to some extent, maintaining as good ties as they can with Pakistan and with India. That way they can have channels of communications such that if things flare up. But as you said, that's obviously not what the United States wants to be doing right now. What Trump wants to be doing is prosecuting his trade war and striking trade deals with various countries. But as we've all seen, the Prime Minister of India said this is not an era of war. Well, there's a lot of wars happening. So current events have a way of overriding what it is that global leaders want to do.
That's right. And we are hoping at least this does help India not only bring a very, very strong case, but also it was always a realization, but something draws to the fact that Pakistan can't continue, Pakistan military cannot continue business as usual, not just with India, but it's a threat to this entire region. And as we have seen before as well, many terror attacks in the West, all emanating or finding links to Pakistan. The world has to stay united against terror. Thank you so much to my guests for joining me this evening. With that, we are slipping into a short break. News and updates on the other side. Stay tuned.